disclosure, the only AI in this talk is going to be the pictures. So it's going to be pretty boring. Okay, my name's Robin, and today I'm going to talk about one UI library to rule them all and how Spartan brings shadcn UI and Radix to Angular. I need to set the stage first because to understand a little bit about this talk, you have to understand what React developers have been enjoying while we as Angular developers have been battling rigid design systems or building from scratch. So one of these things is Radix, and Radix is a low-level, accessible, and unstyled React component library. It handles the component behavior, it takes care of the component's internal state management and accessibility, but it doesn't bring visual opinions. And that's the reason it's become one of the most popular backbones for design systems in React. It handles all the hard parts like focus management, area attributes, keyboard navigation, and lets you focus on shipping your application, building your business logic. So if you didn't pay attention with Mark's talk, you might think this sounds like the Angular CDK, right? Well, it's not quite. It has a different level of abstraction. So the CDK, as the name says, is a component development kit. It gives you behavior primitives that lets you build your components. So Radix, on the other side, gives you actual UI primitives that are ready to use. Think select, think navigation menu, think tooltip, whatever you need. You just add your styles. Or to stay in the Spartan world, let's use an analogy that everybody understands. So the Angular CDK gives you the perfect iron ore and the perfect hammer to craft your own sword. Radix gives you a battle-ready sword. You just add the colors and the grip that you need. And both are powerful, they're just different levels of battle readiness. But you can't talk about Radix without talking about shadcn. So shadcn takes these Radix primitives and adds beautifully designed tailwind styles. They look like straight out of linear or Vercel applications. They're production ready, modern, and clean. Like this is an example of what it looks like. So you don't start from an unstyled mess and trying to make it look pretty. You're starting from something pretty gorgeous, and you can make it yours. But here's the kicker, and this is what I think actually took the React world by storm. Instead of saying npm install my design system, it actually lets you copy and paste these beautiful components into your project. You like the colors, you can keep them. You want your brands purple, you can change it. You need a smaller border radius, it's just a change to a tailwind class. The styles are yours to customize. The look and feel is completely under your control. The complex logic and all the brainy things that make the components work, that stays in Radix as an npm package, easy updates included. And React developers lost their minds. It was so simple, it was revolutionary. You get the best of both worlds. You get to create and ship something beautiful today, but you still have the flexibility to customize it whenever you need to. And just to give you a perspective of how popular this approach is, shadcn has 99.1 thousand GitHub stars as of like last night, 2 a.m. And how many stars do you think Angular has? Any ideas? Mark, do you know? It's 99.2 thousand, right? So it's nearly identical numbers. So you can see that owning your UI primitives has been a game changer for React. They have figured something out, these React developers. We got to give them credit. Having Radix handle the behavior and shadcn handle the appearance that work together but update independently and can change independently, that's really powerful. So I knew Angular needed something like this, but it has to be built the Angular way. So here's the big question. What the heck does this have to do with Spartans, King Leonidas, the 300, or the Peloponnesian War? Right? That's the question we're all asking. Well, not much. But it all started in the spring of 2023 when on one fateful weekend, my naive younger self was building a proof of concept. I was trying to show that you can build end-to-end type-safe applications with Angular. And I used Supabase, Prisma, Angular, RPC, Tailwind, AnalogJS, and NX, or as I like to call it, the Spartan stack. But it wasn't just the stack. Everything was coming together beautifully. The type safety was really nice. And I already had Tailwind in there. So I was thinking, how hard can it be? Just bring some shadcn styles over, just copy the Tailwind classes, just to make it look nice. Well, as I was doing that, I realized something. The Spartan analogy is actually pretty good because what does a Spartan warrior need? Two things, right? Their brain, their battle training, their tactics, their discipline. That never changes. That's what keeps them alive in battle. And then the helmet. It must be unique for every warrior. It must fit your head in order to do a job. And it looks absolutely badass. So I split my components the same way. I built the brain with the Angular CDK, let that handle the behavior. The helmet was Tailwind styles that users can own. Separate concerns, clean architecture, simple, right? Well, spoiler alert, I had no idea that I was about to embark on an epic quest that would be part of the next years of my life. Bring together an incredible community of contributors and let me join others in pushing the Angular ecosystem forward. What started as just adding a few Tailwind classes turned into building the Angular equivalent of Radix, creating a CLI, learning more about accessibility patterns and area attributes than I ever thought, and discovering why nobody had done this before. It's really, really hard, and it's a ton of work. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of that quest. This is the adventures of Angie and Leo and their quest for component ownership. So our story begins in the land of Angularia, a realm divided. On the left, we have opinionated empire. Material design reigns supreme. Beautiful architecture, everything matches, highest quality you can get. But painting these walls in a different color, good luck with the assassin mix-ins. And then on the right, we have blank canvas wasteland. Developers implementing their components from scratch. I think the guy on the right is still trying to figure out how to get that focus trapping right. In between, our king Leo watches and thinks to himself, every day, developers bow to the material empire or burn out in the wasteland. There must be another way. Well, good thing, this is the moment Angie bursts onto the scene, just back from a diplomatic mission to React Kingdom. And they exclaim, Leo, Leo, you won't believe what I've seen. The React developers, they have these things called Radix primitives and shadcn, the shadcn approach, where they actually own their UI components. Leo gets interested. He says, tell me more about this ownership. And that's when Angie shows him the progress made in React Kingdom, where people copy the code in their projects, building faster than ever before. No fighting with someone else's design system, no building from scratch. They have beautiful defaults ready to customize. Leo knows instantly that he needs to bring this to the developers of Angularia. But Leo, as they enter the temple of Gemini, Angie says, but Leo, if it was that simple, someone would have done it already. But the naive young Spartan Leo he knows that good thing Spartans don't do simple. They do whatever it takes. So we began our quest. Between us and component ownerships, the three major challenges. There is the CLI straits, where setup complexity drowns even experienced developers. The accessibility labyrinth, where only true masters navigate successfully. And the bridge of specific requirements, where components must transform without breaking. And only then you maybe one day reach Mount V1. So let's head down to the CLI straits, a treacherous water where developers spend hours configuring, installing dependencies, and setting up imports. You see, some never make it across. They give up implementing before implementing a single business requirement. The good thing is that the Spartans have a saying: the fastest way across water is not to swim, it's to summon a boat. So Leo pulls out his magic conch and calls for a boat. And within seconds, a beautiful ship appears. But let me show you what that looks like in code. All right, so here I have just a regular Angular application, straight from the CLI. And then I just have Tailwind set up. So I'm going to stop this here, and then I'm going to install the Spartan CLI. So npmi, and then as a development dependency, I'm installing the Spartan CLI, which is the conch. So let's let npm do its thing. Be slow. All right, so we got that installed. So now we can leverage that and actually run a single command. You can find it here, which is we use NX generators and the compatibility with the Angular CLI, so we can just run ngg and then Spartan ng CLI init. We only have one app in this project, so we're going to just select that. We want neutral colors, and then we can just click enter for these. It's smart enough to figure out where stylus.css is. And what it does is it installs the dependencies like the Angular CDK, and then some other Tailwind stuff like Tailwind merge and Tailwind animate. And it just makes sure these dependencies are installed correctly. It also goes into your stylus.css and sets up a bunch of things that are needed to get your app working with Spartan. And it pre-configures a lot of these colors and CSS variables for you. So if I run ngserve now, we should hopefully see that nothing changed. All right, perfect. The good thing is we now have access to the full powers of the CLI. So if I actually run UI, and then in here, I'll do source components, and just leave the alias. I can go component shopping, right? I can select whatever I want here. We don't have a boat, so I'm just going to install all of them. Oh, where is it? And this CLI is now working its magic. It's actually copying the code into your project. Again, making sure one more time that all the dependencies are installed. And in here, we now have our source code for all the Spartan components. So I can now go into my app component and then just add a button. And then I add the Helm button, add the import, and if I've done everything correctly, I can run ngserve. And a styled button appears, like magic, right? All right, so button is pretty boring. So you can also head to the Spartan docs, and you can copy the code of a more complicated example like our combo box. So I'm going to do that. Go back. I'm just going to create the combo box here. Paste in the code. Save. And take the selector here. All right, so I'm going to add this over here too. Cool. So hit save again. Go back to my browser. And now I have a fully working combo box in here, right? So it's pretty cool if you ask me, but I'm biased. All right, so what's important is that this CLI didn't build itself, and the components, each one is a battle won by one of our Spartan. So as our heroes cross the sea straits to their next adventure, let me show you these developers that took their fate into their own hands. We have Benny, who's been with us since the earliest battles. Sammy, who took on the Select Hydra. Mark, who has used his craft to polish all of our components, make sure the API surface is flawless. Ashley, who's actually the maintainer of Angular primitives, which is another incredible unstyled component library. And he had all the reasons to protect his time, knowledge, and efforts. But instead, he decided to work with us when I reached out. He's building bridges and sharing his learnings and incredible work. And then Marilyn, who's also here somewhere, I think. He's been carrying this project over the last weeks. He has helped me even last night getting things ready. And what's important is that these Spartans are paving the way against our common enemy. The idea that Angular developers should have to choose between beautiful and customizable, between accessible and shipping fast. Which brings us to our second challenge, the accessibility labyrinth. You see, making something look good is the easy part. Making it work for everyone, that's where developers lose weeks. Or as Angie notes, some people say that developers entering the labyrinth trying to build a simple drop-down, and they never come out. But once again, Leo knows that with a whole army of Spartans, there's nothing that's impossible, and we can even face the final boss of our UI components, the combo box. And I've showed it before, so I'll try again. So the combo box is actually a combination of other components like the popover, the brain popover, the helm button plays a role, and then our command menu. And I'm going to try to see if I can get this to work because it's a little funky with the mirrored stuff. But I'm going to try see if this can actually display. Okay. So this is actually keyboard navigate. I'm navigating with my keyboard now. So you can say, if I hit return, it opens. The focus wraps around. I can select Angular. I can hit escape. It takes care of like focus management and all of the little details to make this work. So, because we believe you shouldn't have to fight these battles, right? You have products to build, you have features to ship, you have users to delight. So instead of spending weeks on building primitives, debugging their edge cases, testing their accessibility, you can just run a few commands, even on stage, and copy a couple of examples from our website and have a fully working combo box in about 2 minutes. And look, I do want to be honest, accessibility is really hard, and we're not perfect yet, but we're committed to first-class support, and when our community finds issues, we fix them as fast as we can. And since we all work together on this, every fix benefits everyone. Okay, so you guys ready for the final challenge? The bridge of specific requirements? Well, everyone knows that our friend, the anglerfish, loves purple gradients. And that to pass over his bridge and make it to Mount V1, your button must do 3 things. Show their favorite purple gradient, track analytics on every click, and scale to make the button look interactive when the user clicks on it. All right, let's watch what happens when a material warrior approaches in his beautiful armor. He knows he has the most beautiful buttons in all the land, but the anglerfish doesn't care about that, right? He demands him to show him the purple gradient. Well, you need to overwrite the theme, maybe create a custom SAS mix, and maybe even use ngdeep, right? It's not that easy. The armor is beautiful, it's just not made to be customized. Again, Leo steps forward with confidence and says, watch this, Angie. So, So since we copied the code, we can actually go into our button, right? And we can extend it pretty easily. So up here we have different variants. So I can just add one if I wanted to. So I'll do the fish variant. And I'll add a background. That's a gradient. It goes to the bottom and goes from purple all right, so all I need to do now is add the variant here. And autocomplete already knows. And this easy, I have the purple variant. All right, but since the button is just a directive, I can also do other stuff, right? I can, for example, intercept the click event. And add track click function. So go down here into my component. And I'm just going to console log it for now. Again, you know the drill. Go over here. And on the right side, you can barely see it, but button is clicked. Okay, last thing is we want to scale down, right? Because with the gradient, we now need a different indicator. Where's my mouse? For the user, that something's actually happening when you click the button. So we can simply add styles here that are then getting applied to all of our buttons. So I do active, and I scale down to 95%. And this merges automatically with the existing styles. So again, I'm extending the functionality here. And I don't know if you see it, but the button scales down a little bit, making sure I know something's happening. Cool. So how do you even do that, right? Well, we own the code. It's not locked away in our node module. So turning Angie and Leo purple is actually pretty simple. And the code is just there in the project for you and also your favorite AI model to read, edit, and make yours. Things are pretty easy to customize. And you might even make it to Mount V1. So with that, our heroes finally reached their goal, right? They did it. They brought shadcn and Radix to Angular, but they just didn't do that, right? They rebuilt it the Angular way. Every component works on the server because we build our docs with analog.js. So SSR isn't an afterthought, it's the default. We also build on top of signals and on push from day one. So when you're ready to drop Zone.js, the Spartans will be ready too. And then we're fortunate enough to be a fairly new project, so we don't carry that much technical debt, legacy baggage. I hope at least. We're built on top of Signal. We use the new control flow. We use standalone components. It's a project built to support current and future versions of your applications. But here's what makes this story special. This is not a company. It's not VC funded. It's just a bunch of developers who believed Angular deserved better. Developers contributing at night after work, a truly open community, freely sharing insights, styles, and problems on our Discord server, and companies letting their developers contribute on company time, which please do that. And then I also want to point out a special ally we have, Xerox. Their sponsorship allowed us to keep going when my job took over a majority of my energy. I was able to distribute funds to core maintainers and find other ways to reward people for their contributions. And this is a startup that is actually saying Angular deserves better, right? And without Alish and his team, we wouldn't be here. Because he believes that the Angular community deserves the same open source tools as the React community. And his vision doesn't end with Spartan. Imagine a unified approach to get stuff like chart libraries or open source Angular e-commerce starters. All the things when you see something exciting and you see it's all React, we want to build something like that, but with Angular as the backbone. And I get very excited about all the possibilities of us coming together as a community, bundling our resources, and building something that helps everyone build better applications. And now, after years of battle testing and over 1,000 commits and countless iterations, the odyssey of Spartan and its very, 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 very long alpha period is finally coming to an end. By the end of the year, after polishing the last few primitives and making sure the tool is as sharp as it should be for a Spartan warrior, we're finally launching our version 1. We're talking days or weeks, not months anymore. But I'm not here to convince you to rewrite your app today. We're here to show you that there's another way. You don't have to choose between beautiful but rigid, flexible but exhausting, fast but inaccessible. You can have components that are beautiful and customizable, accessible and performance, modern and stable. So if you're curious and want to learn more, go to spartan.ng and join the 300, which is what we call the first 300 contributors or supporters. And if this quest was a little too wild for you, rest assured, because as we speak, the Empire, I mean the Angular team, is building Angular Area, an official unstyled UI primitive library from Google. And we don't see it as competition, we see it as validation. The brain we built, maybe it evolves, maybe gets replaced by Area, that's fine, right? That's progress. Because what history teaches us is that the 300 Spartans, they didn't win at Thermopylae, but their story of courage, dedication, and commitment inspired others for thousands of years. We don't need to win. We just need to keep pushing Angular forward together. Because rebuilding components from scratch every time you start a new project or spending hours fighting your component library, that is madness. But owning your styles and keeping your flexibility, that is Spartan. Thank you.